In a world increasingly dominated by the digital, a rebellion is afoot, according to journalist David Sax. People now want real things, from vinyl records to cameras with actual film in them. And he joins us now to discuss the revenge of analog. Nice to see you again, David.
Good to see you.
Okay, revenge of analog means what?
It means that in this age where more and more of our lives is mediated through digital technology, whether it's personal or professional, and where we assume that the things that digital technology replaced, analog technology, would sort of fade away and wither, there's been this surprising return and growth of these, let's say, legacy analog technologies, whether they're goods or even ways of doing things, ideas, that continues to grow over the past couple of years.
Like what?
Well, the best example, right behind me here, is vinyl records and turntables. You know, since their low point of sales in 2006, vinyl records and turntables have grown 10 times in their sales of new records and new turntables in North America. And this is astonishing because everybody thought, okay, well, you know, with the CD, you had all of a sudden size and quality issues, you got rid of them, and vinyl began their decline. And then all of a sudden you had MP3s and iPods, and thought, okay, well, next to that, forget about who needs these bulky, expensive discs of melted plastic. And suddenly we're in the age of you know, wireless streaming. And right when that happens, when physical music is something we no longer need, is there this upswing in desire for it, and the numbers showing it, and that those numbers just keep increasing.
We'll talk about the whys in a second, but I do have to tell you, I was at something the other day and somebody pulled out a Polaroid camera, which I have not seen in probably 40 years. And they took a picture and spat the picture, and I just thought to myself, what do you do with that now?
You put it on your fridge.
Of course
right?
you do.
Instead of sifting through 1,000 pictures that are on your phone and finding somewhere to print them, or spending 6 months making an album and ripping your head out when it doesn't format the right way, you click and it prints and it's there and you have it. You can hold it in your hand. You can give it to someone. You can write something on it. You can post it up somewhere. You can put it in your wallet. Those tangible benefits for a number of people, certainly not the majority, but a growing number of people, are worth it, and it's worth spending the money for, and it's also worth the hassle that's involved with it.
Apropos of this, there were predictions not too long ago that all offices would go paperless.
Right.
Is that happening?
I don't know what to read off your page there. You tell me.
I guess not. Not entirely.
Not entirely, and that's because when we give something up, when we adopt a new technology, we think, okay, well, this is fantastic, right? We don't need paper. I have my computer, I have my tablet, and it does all these things. But after a while of using it, we realize what it does and what it doesn't do. And you can't write notes easily on a tablet. You can't fold it. You can't scribble things on it. You can't read it in the same way. You can't find your place just by the haptic senses that we know. And so paper has its advantages in certain aspects. Doesn't mean everything. It doesn't mean that the computers in the offices will be torn up and smashed or thrown out the window like an SCTV. It means that we see where the benefits of analog things are, and increasingly individuals and companies and organizations are adopting that because they see it as more productive.
I want you to tell us about this tech conference that you went to recently in Toronto. A lot of startups there, I think some representation from Google and Apple. What were they holding, most of them, in their hands?
Well, you know, if you go into the offices of Google or Apple or meet with anyone who's in the tech business, you know, they have a phone in one hand and a Moleskine notebook in the other, right? And a Moleskine notebook is just the newest, kind of nicest version of technology that's thousands of years old, which is paper and pen. And for many of the people there, even the brightest minds in the digital world, they appreciate the benefit of that. They appreciate the benefit of just having a space that's not connected, where they can do whatever they want. Take a pen and put down their thoughts and draw it in any way, and they're not hemmed in by the constraints of the software and the hardware that you would get with a digital device.
In the corporate world, you see any other examples of analog making a comeback?
Of course. I mean, Amazon is a great example. You know, in their meetings, the executive meetings, Jeff Bezos and his team, they have a policy where you know, they don't do PowerPoints, they don't do bullet points. Whatever executive are presenting writes a written memo that's printed on paper, and everyone comes in, puts their devices away, turns their phones and computers off, and reads quietly for 30 minutes. And then, you know, there's a discussion and a presentation. And you're seeing this in other companies too. Companies have banned laptops and computers and tablets and phones from meetings because they provide these great distractions. So at once it was, oh, we can multitask. Everyone now knows if you're in a meeting and someone opens up a laptop, boom, you've lost them. Right? Oh, yeah, sorry, Steve, what'd you say? I'm just, I got you. I got what you said. What was that question you asked? What were we talking about? Book about food? And so you're seeing companies, I mean, some companies apparently go to the extremes of installing signal blockers in conference rooms. But, you know, another interesting thing about Amazon is recently it was discovered and came out that they are going to be opening a number of brick-and-mortar bookstores. And, you know, this is an astounding thing coming from the company that was not only the sort of defining company of the e-commerce era, but the one that really was, you know, this is the death knell of bookstores and brick and mortars in general, suddenly making a 180 and going to it. And it's not because Amazon's nostalgic. It's not because Amazon misses the smell of a bookstore in the field.
There's a market for it.
There's a market. They can make a profit off it, and they can actually make a profit off retailing books in a store better and easier than they can doing it online.
We heard the same kind of apocalyptic predictions, I think, in the education sector as well, which is that we would get rid of all the blackboards and all the notebooks, and every kid was going to be handed an iPad, and there you go, you're off to the races. Is that happening?
It has been attempted, and where it's been attempted has been a colossal failure. You know, this is where the utopian vision of technology, of digital technology, meets the reality of the evidence. So it's very easy for a politician or a school administrator to say, you know, this is a digital age and the kids got to get on these computers, and we're going to buy an iPad for every kid in the school district, you know, Toronto or Ontario. And what's happened in school districts where this has occurred, Los Angeles being sort of the biggest example where every student in the LA school system was given an iPad, is that, you know, the iPads broke, the technologies had problems, it cost a ton of money, and when it was studied, the educational benefits of it were either flat or negative. You know, just because you provide with a new tool doesn't necessarily make it better. When I was growing up in the Toronto public school system, you know, oh, we're going to have videos, we're going to have, you know, computers and CD-ROMs, we're going to do a lot. And it's like these things sat in the corner and they were broken. They didn't change the nature of what schooling really was, which is this interaction between teachers and students and knowledge. And so you see this cycle repeated time and again, but what a lot of schools are coming to now and understanding in educational institutions is that, you know, there's benefit in approaching things from a more analog way. Like maybe it's better to have the kids read on paper than it is to have them read on a tablet or a device. Or maybe it's better to have policies in a university where students are not allowed to use laptops in the classroom because it leads to increased distraction.
In which case, as promised, let's get into the whys of this. Why are record players making a comeback? Why would that Polaroid camera be making a comeback? Why is all this happening?
The big why is because, you know, fundamentally at the end of the day, we are physical beings, human beings in a physical world. And the digital is great. It provides all sorts of access and power and the ability to do incredible things. But at the end of the day, that's all a simulation. It's not real. It's not tangible. I can only do this so many times with so many things, right? Everything is in that one little screen. And so as individuals, as consumers, as a society, we crave things that are real and tangible, right? When you can no longer purchase music anywhere, when all your music is free and disembodied, the desire and the value of physical music that you have to go and pay for and do a little work for, but you can proudly display on your wall, and the process of playing that music on a turntable suddenly becomes a luxury. It's something that's desirable. And that's where, you know, you're seeing this in all sorts of ways, whether it's paper products like Moleskine notebooks or letterpress cards or even business cards, or film cameras and products like you know, the Impossible Project, who are the people that revived Polaroid technology, or Fuji's Instax line of film cameras, which are amongst their most profitable cameras in the entire company. That desire fits this very base desire as humans, which is to touch things, to interact with things, to buy things, to do actual things outside of our screens.
I also felt, I don't know, I guess we're going back 40 years now, that when we moved from LPs to CDs, the notion of that music being inside something artistic and beautiful was lost, right? The LP, the cover of an album, which you don't quite get the same oomph from on a CD or certainly online, it's lost, isn't it, once the LP went the way of the dodo bird? But it's back now.
Yeah, and I think that's because, you know, there's nothing sexy about data. It's ones and zeros, right? Ones and zeros in endless combinations. So, you know, what is different on your computer about the latest Drake album than the email from someone at work? Nothing. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros randomly arranged. And so for those who are really into music and those who have that appreciation, and again, you know, we're talking about a small but growing segment of the population of consumers.
Well, this is what I'm wondering. Who's because the assumption would be it's the 60-plus generation that's getting its revenge, which never liked this move into digital anyway, and therefore it's their crave for authenticity that is leading the way on this. You're going to tell me I'm wrong, though.
You indeed are.
Yeah.
And you're not 65, so that's, you know, you got to buy for that. No, it's actually the young consumers, the digital natives, the millennials, those who are in their 30s and 20s and even teens who are the ones that are craving this. And they're doing it because they don't have a novelty around digital, right? The 65-year-old is still so impressed with their iPad. My parents are constantly on their iPads and on their phones in front of my kid. Look at this, isn't this amazing? They aren't nostalgic for the things that they lost. Whereas someone who has always grown up with digital technology, who has only known screens and ones and zeros, the novelty of a turntable, the novelty of a camera that spits out a picture is a wonderful thing and something that they are able to spend their money on and they want to.
They never grew up with it. So
Exactly.
It's a revelation to them, isn't it? Tell me about the time you went back to your old summer camp. Which camp is that?
It's Camp Walden outside of Bancroft, Ontario.
Okay, so maybe a few hours from the studio.
Yeah.
And you talked to a bunch of kids there about being away from technology all the time during their summer break. What'd you learn?
Yeah, so I think the assumption is, you know, these children who are, you know, 12 and 13 and 14 years old, you know, they would miss technology. Everybody says, well, the kids today, they want technology. That's what they want. That's what they like. That's what they know. You know, look at these kids on the Instagram or whatever. And I think that assumption is pretty shallow because when you speak to these kids, you know, they spend their summer up there. Walden has a no technology policy. You can't bring an iPad up.
I think most camps do. Most summer camps
A lot of them don't. An increasing number don't. So there are summer camps that say, well, this is what the kids want, or this is what the parents want. So, you know, you can have your device, you can have your phone, you can
defeats the purpose of summer camp.
And so that's what a lot of these kids said is, you know, initially maybe they were worried about it or they have a hesitation, but within 5 minutes of being up at camp with their friends, they're happier. And when they go back to the city and they have camp reunions, you know, they'll leave their phones at home that night. It doesn't mean that they go back to the city and, you know, they live as though they're at camp all the time. The second they get off that bus, they're opening up that phone and, you know, sharing photos and pictures from the summer. You know, this assumption that the younger generation only wants the digital, I think is a projection by us older generations on what isn't true.
Let's, this is the strangest video, but we're going to show this here. Dutch police officers are training eagles to catch illegal eyes in the sky, right? These drones. Have we got this video ready to go, Sheldon? Okay, let's roll it, please. Doesn't that just tell you everything about where things are at nowadays? What do you make of that?
I think that, you know, for all the digital technology you have, the analog efficiency of a trained eagle is still the best you can get.
You can't beat that,
You can't beat that.
Wow, okay. This is all going to be in your upcoming book, The Revenge of Analog, which comes out when?
November.
November. We look forward to reading it, and perhaps we'll get you back and we'll play a record on a turntable for old time's sake.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Okay, David Sax, author of the upcoming book, The Revenge of Analog.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.